The envelope was still warm in my hand, though it had been weeks since I opened it. I could still feel the sting of each carefully printed word, each curve of the calligraphy that now seemed like a knife twisting in my chest. "We're engaged." Those 3 words, so innocent on paper, had the power to unravel years of my life in an instant. I never thought I'd see the day when I would sit in my own living room, staring at an invitation that wasn't meant for me, my heart pounding against my ribs like a warning drum. The man who had promised me everything, the man I had believed in, loved, and waited for, was moving on. And I had nothing but silence to respond with. It hadn't always been this way. 3 weeks. That was all it took to change everything. I had waited for him on that sunlit beach, our secret spot by the edge of the world. The sand had been warm beneath my feet, the waves gentle, whispering their usual secrets as the gulls circled overhead. I had imagined that moment for months. The way he would kneel, the way his eyes would catch mine, the words that would make my heart explode in happiness. But he didn't come. Not that day, not the next. And then, slowly, the days became weeks. 3 weeks. Each day I waited, my phone glued to my hand, the anxiety gnawing at me. Was he stuck in traffic? Did something happen? Did he not care enough? My mind created 1,000 excuses, all of them more desperate than the last. And when his calls finally came, timid and apologetic, it didn't feel like relief. It felt like a slow confirmation of a fear I had refused to name. I told him I couldn't do it. Not then, not like that. Not with the trust between us cracking at the edges. My heart was still his, but my patience wasn't. "I need someone who shows up," I had whispered into the phone, my voice trembling. "Not someone who's always late." Had been 3 weeks too late. And now he was engaged. I first saw the news on social media, of course. That's how betrayal always finds you in the modern world. An innocuous scroll through the feed, a headline, a picture, a smiling couple with rings catching the sunlight. I should have known better. I had warned myself, told myself to stay detached. Yet when I saw him, his arm draped over someone else's shoulder, the same smile he once reserved for me, I felt a cold, creeping panic. I tried not to cry, but the first tear slipped anyway. And then another. Soon my cheeks were damp, my chest heavy. I wanted to scream, to call him, to demand answers, but I had no right. I had been the one to say no. The one to step away. I had been the one who let fear and pride win over love. It wasn't immediate, the unraveling of our story. Life had continued in its ordinary rhythm. Mornings at the office, evenings alone with my thoughts, weekends filled with a hollow echo of absence. But I noticed the changes, the tiny fractures I had ignored. He was distant before the proposal, but I thought it was just stress, just life. I didn't see the secret glances, the hushed phone calls, the subtle changes in the way he laughed at someone else's joke but not mine. And perhaps that was my fault too. Choosing not to see. When the engagement announcement came, I forced myself to remember every moment that led here. I had rejected him for being late, for being imperfect. And in my perfectionism I had lost him completely. I didn't know whether to hate him or forgive him. Part of me wanted to rage, to call and ask how someone could move on so quickly. How he could replace years of love with weeks of absence. Another part of me, the part that still loved him, whispered that maybe this was my own doing, that I had left a door open for regret and now it was closed. I replayed our last conversation endlessly in my mind. I can't wait anymore. I need certainty, I had said. And you think I'm not certain? His voice had cracked, a mixture of hurt and desperation. I don't know. I need someone who shows up. I had hung up before he could respond. And in that silence, we had lost each other. Weeks turned into months. I told myself I was fine, that I was over it, that I had grown stronger. But strength is a fragile thing when it is built on denial. It was on a rainy Tuesday evening when I finally saw him in person again. I had gone to a small coffee shop, hoping to drown my thoughts in the aroma of roasted beans and the warmth of the dimly lit space. And there he was, sitting at a corner table, laughing with the woman whose hand rested casually on his. They looked happy, too happy. I wanted to turn away, but something inside me froze. My mind raced with questions, with memories. He noticed me then, and our eyes met for the briefest of moments. There was recognition, surprise, something unspoken, and then he looked away. I should have left, but I couldn't. Instead, I ordered a coffee and sat watching him. Watching the life I had wanted unfold in the hands of someone else. I wondered if he thought of me at all. If he remembered the nights we stayed up talking about nothing, the mornings we woke to each other's breath, the dreams we shared silently. Did he feel guilty? Or had I become nothing more than a chapter he had closed without looking back? And then, against all reason, I felt the urge to speak. Not to accuse, not to plead, but to understand. I approached his table cautiously. "Can I sit?" he asked. He looked at me for a long moment. There was no smile, no warmth, just a quiet, uneasy acknowledgement. "Sure," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. We didn't speak immediately. The rain outside tapped against the window, the world carrying on in oblivion as we sat in suspended tension. Finally he spoke. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Neither did I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. He looked down at his coffee, swirling it absent-mindedly. I didn't want things to end like that." "I know," I said softly. I couldn't wait. And maybe I was wrong. But I needed certainty." He sighed, a long, heavy sound that seemed to carry the weight of months, maybe years. "I get it. Do. But I also moved on. You moved on too in your own way. Life doesn't stop waiting for us." I nodded, feeling a strange mixture of relief and grief. We were both survivors of our own choices, prisoners of the paths we had taken. "I guess we're done," I said finally, not as an accusation but as a statement of fact. "Yes," he agreed quietly. "Done." I walked out of that coffee shop with the rain soaking through my coat, my heart feeling both lighter and heavier at once. I had closure in a sense, but the memory of what we could have been lingered like the salty scent of the ocean where I had waited for him so long ago. And yet I felt something else too, a strange sense of gratitude. For the love we shared, for the lessons we learned, for the truth that sometimes waiting isn't the same as living, and that moving on doesn't always mean forgetting. I knew I would remember him for the rest of my life, the way the ocean remembers the tide, constant and enduring. But I also knew that some doors, once closed, are meant to stay that way. And in that knowledge, I found the first flicker of peace. Life would go on as it always does. The heartbreak would fade, the anger would dissipate, and the tears would eventually dry that we made in its absence. I would love again in my own time, in my own way. But for now I allowed myself to remember, to grieve, to ache, to acknowledge the man who had meant everything and the life we would never have. Sometimes love is not enough. Sometimes timing is everything. And sometimes we are left only with the echo of what could have been, and the quiet, painful hope that one day, we will forgive ourselves for the choices